So you guys know I get a lot of comments, and once in a while I'll find a comment that I find interesting that raises very solid questions. I got one from an audience member of mine. They asked a very good question. I'm going to go ahead and read it all out for you guys. Very cool. They said, VG, why do you see gaming as just a business? But it's much more than that. When people say porting games will kill Xbox, they're not talking about the financial aspect. Okay, I can respect that. They're talking about its brand and image. It's like the rivalry between sports teams, Xbox versus PlayStation. This competition is at the heart and soul of the gaming industry. No matter how much the market evolves, these companies have to stay loyal to their core audiences. The impact of these team-like rivalries is often underestimated, but it drives passion and loyalty among gamers. They then said this. They said, the passion will shatter if Xbox ports its key franchises to PlayStation and vice versa. The fierce loyalty that fuels a rivalry will lose its meaning, diluting the unique identities of each brand. Fans thrive on exclusivity, and without it, the rivalry that keeps the gaming community so engaged could fade. This is why I think Xbox and PlayStation should keep core first-party exclusives for as long as possible or never port at all. Maybe I'm wrong. The reply will let me know. This is a very interesting question. I really enjoyed this question. I have a very simple answer for it, though. Both Xbox and PlayStation have tasted success outside of this rivalry. Another thing, too, is maybe what many of you may be hearing is that I actually don't have any kind of reverence or nostalgia about this rivalry because I really was never in it. I just literally bought myself a PlayStation 4 because there were games that I wanted to play. Then, before that, somebody had gifted me an Xbox 360, which I was going to grad school, and I just gave it away. Right? So in thinking about that, I was never really, concerned or interested in this so-called rivalry. So I'm looking at it from an outside perspective. There's a little bit of objectivity here compared to, say, the Xbox or the longtime PlayStation fan. So I can tell you with, sincerity that this rivalry is gone. Because for the most part, when you're playing on a console, and I mean no offense, you're playing in a bubble. You're literally locked in this ecosystem. And majority of what you experience in terms of gaming stems from what your experience is or what you perceive about the experience across the board. So for you to say that the rivalry between the PlayStation and the Xbox ecosystem, it's the heart and soul of the gaming industry. That's really funny because as somebody who, I kind of bounced in 2016 and went to the PC, I discovered an entire new world. I was like, there's no way this thing exists. And once even Xbox themselves and PlayStation discovered this new world, they have started to dial in. Xbox is not here to do perception or to do any of this brand image anymore. They're here to strengthen the brand from where it actually matters the most. If they did not adapt, they would not be able to stay loyal to you as a core audience member. They'd be dead. If they followed the so-called rivalry, they'd be dead. That's for sure. If Xbox went tit for tat against PlayStation, they would be out of the business. But they took a different approach. That approach was having to find an external audience that will support and fund the things that you're enjoying right now on the Xbox ecosystem. One of them, namely, in fact, most important of them, because I know some people have said, there's Game Pass, but we want more. No. We're going to sit on Game Pass until PlayStation can respond to this. If they can't, we sit on it for as long as it takes. Other things enable to even still have a thread of hope to bring another generation to play, which is the series generation, and still find it be viable, is simply because they took a different approach in many ways. They were cultivating audiences. I mean, we can go to SteamDB, we can go to Steam Database right now, and we could take a look at games across the Xbox ecosystem that are available on Steam and see people playing them, as well as people who may be playing them on, the Xbox, platform. So once again, I encourage everybody on the, Xbox or PlayStation side who may want to actually engage in the ecosystem. I encourage you to now break away from the mold. That methodology is gone. even rival sports teams still collaborate in some sense. I mean, I'm a soccer fan. Teams will loan other teams' players. I mean, Jude Bellingham and his contract was very complicated. Even his contract with Borussia Dortmund and Real Madrid. Those of you who watch soccer, you know what I mean. I think if when they both played the finals of the Champions League, so if Real Madrid won, they were going to have to pay Borussia Dortmund a certain fee. If Borussia, because of Jude Bellingham, something along the lines of that. So even rivals will still have to they still have to actually have some measure of cooperation or of dependency to one another in order for them to be able to thrive, even in the so-called team sports. They've just played these games just to make console because, again, they realize that, gamers can be really passionate. These companies have just taken advantage of us because of the childlike, enjoyment that we gained from playing these games as, young people. That's what they've pretty much, especially PlayStation, that's what they've capitalized on for all these years. So now it's time to grow up. And once it's time to grow up, all of the childish stuff needs to be left aside. There's a great author back in the day, Paul, the Apostle Paul. He writes in one of his letters about him being a child and him being a man and the difference between both of them. It's probably one of the most heavy-hitting transitions you'll ever see from from boy to man, from girl to womanhood. That childishness where you lay away childish things. All this talk about the rival, it's childish. The big talk where people are actually sitting down and making changes and shifting entire market, paradigms. That's what Xbox is interested in right now. They're not concerned in how somebody feels about their brand image. No, they are here to just play and win. And that will require a huge change in thinking. I was talking to a colleague today. They were telling me how, because where we work, they adopted Google tools a long time ago. They did it with Microsoft stuff. But this, colleague and a few other colleagues, they prefer Microsoft, Office and stuff. So somewhere, somehow, I think their Office, installation, something happened with it. And they were like, oh, how can I get Microsoft Word? And I was like, well, you can buy a copy. They were like, well, I thought it was a subscription. I was like, no, they've actually listened to the market and said, nah, we'll make a non-subscription version for you guys. I was shocked. I was like, Microsoft backtracked on Microsoft Office subscription. That's to show you that they are here they don't care about perception. If there's enough pressure in the market, because there's pressure in the market. Google was taking over that like crazy. People were just like, we'll just use Google. Or we'll just use anything else because there's many things out there. And so adapting to the market is a very big deal. Adobe right now is the one that's not facing enough pressure. I think more pressure is going to keep coming. And they're going to revert from, maybe they'll stick with it. Maybe they're making enough money where they'll stick with their subscription service. But you got to look at other businesses and look at the way they conduct business. Gaming is not exempt from the laws of economics. It's not exempt from the laws of the market forces around it. It adheres to it all through. Look at Prince of, you can make a good game, but if you say the wrong thing to your customer, these CEOs, you see, the reason a lot of these gaming folk have been saying nonsense all this while is because they've gotten too comfortable that these gamers are passionate and, loyal to them. So they'll say stuff like, well, gamers need to, get used to not owning their own games. That's why they'll say a load of BS. They got too comfortable because of your loyalty. Now that the market is proving them, they're flailing all over the place. Look at Ubisoft. If Xbox does not make changes, it's not immune from disappearing from the market. If PlayStation does not make changes, it's not immune as well to disappear from the face of the market. And so as much as I, respect the passion, I respect, the commitment that a lot of people have put to their platforms, it's time for us to grow up, guys. I'm sorry, but this is just, I don't know if I'm the guy that should be saying this because we all play video games, right? But here's just the reality of where things are. This is why whenever, and you're going to see a lot of these conversations. I'm going to make more videos about comments that I've been getting. And we're going to sit here and we're going to just see how these comments to me, I'm just laughing because I'm just sitting here on a small YouTube channel. Like somebody said small tubers the other day. Like, bro, the size of the channel has got nothing to do with it. Because I don't have to do anything. Because these companies are public. I just have to wait for their CEOs to say something. And I'm like, oh, this is the direction they're going because the CEO said they're going this direction. And that's it. Unless something else changes, that's the direction that they're going to go. Now, they may decide not to port, their flagship, the Xbox brand titles, but don't get it twisted. If they spend a lot of money developing these games, and with game, development costs getting more and more expensive, and developers being a lot more, time consuming in their development of games, they just spend more time making the same games that have been made years past with a lot less resources, and and they made them quicker. Don't get it twisted, man. They're going to find a way to make their money. So you got to be looking at your devs on Twitter and say, hey, guys, we need to scope this game in a realistic way, but we can't have any input on that. So I'm hoping that their management teams will say, you know what, maybe we should scope these games properly so that they're not too expensive. Stick with the old school Xbox strategy that got them to permeate the market even when their consoles were not selling. That's a whole different conversation. So shout out to you, sir. Thanks for your question. I appreciate it. Peace out.